sit back in your seats, get something to eat, and watch this movie. Don't let the kiddies see it, because, well, we'll let you hear the beginning first. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to
Hello.
Closet Chat.
Woo!
I am Sunny, and this is my co-host.
Rainy.
Well, hello. It is
Hello.
a rather pleasant.
Plaza?
It's a pleasant evening, isn't it?
Yeah. We're almost dead tired.
Yeah, it's
Woo!
been a pretty busy day.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty fun. We had an early Pathfinder session. It's for those who don't know, Pathfinder is similar to D&D. We were playing the second edition of Pathfinder, which is similar to the fifth edition of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it was very fun, but we had to go there very early in the morning.
Yeah, early. Well, it was like
Like
11:30. That's
for
not early in the
for
morning.
for me,
Yes,
that's early.
for a Saturday,
For a
sure,
Saturday, it's
honestly, yeah.
early. And I'm just like, ugh.
I'm actually surprised. I feel like rather consistently, I've been waking up around like 7 or 8 in the morning, like every day. So I'm actually surprised that I did not wake up this time around.
Yeah.
Also, dude, the other day, I was so dead tired and I fell asleep. I slept great, but I woke up and I was drooling. That's how tired I was, dude. This week has
Yeah.
just been kicking my ass.
Oh yeah. It's kicking my ass too.
Yeah, not a bad week, but I'm just
I'm
tired.
just
Yeah.
tired. Yeah.
So, for this episode, we decided to keep things a little bit more low key, since we're pretty low energy,
Yeah.
and describe what are we going to do?
Well, since by the time this episode comes out, it'll be the spooky month of October,
Okay.
we decided we're gonna go ahead and just start doing some spooky stuff. Like as
Yeah.
in read spooky stories.
And that's what we're doing today.
Yep.
So for today, we are looking through Reddit.
Yeah, more accurately, we're in the Reddit the subreddit Let's Not Meet.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys don't know, this is real life scary stories that have happened to people,
Mm-hmm.
and that they posted this on Reddit to share it to everyone. Kind of also like there's a little spooky thing, but also as a warning, like, hey, please be
Yeah, and
mindful.
of course, at the end of each story, typically it ends with "Let's not meet again."
Yeah.
Usually, it's some sort of scary encounter.
Yep.
Yeah, there's actually on this one podcast I think it's called "Let's Not Meet." That's really good. Yeah, so I was a little bit inspired.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and read. I think we're gonna try to read 4 stories. We're each gonna read 2 stories.
If we get through it fast enough, we might do maybe one or
One more.
two more. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how where our energies are towards the 4th
Yeah.
story.
All right, Rainy, you are going to start us off.
Yep. All right. So I'm gonna read the first story, which was actually posted 19 days ago
For
by.
some reason, I thought you were going to say it was posted in 1999. And I'm
Yes.
just like, wait.
Yeah. No, 19 days ago. This was posted by Nana Bub. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the story title is Psycho Uber. So, let's begin. A few weeks ago, me, 23-year-old female, and a friend, 24-year-old female, planned to go to an event together. Since we only had free time after work, we decided to get an Uber so we wouldn't take too long to arrive and could enjoy more. The first half of the ride was really normal. Seemed like a normal, polite dude. But as soon as we got to the highway, his attitude changed. He seemed a little more irritated.
Oh, he's an angry driver.
I'm trying to get into the zone.
Sorry, spooky snooze.
Yeah. Me and my friend didn't pay much attention, though, and kept chatting between us. Our attention was drawn when he started shouting with another driver. He turned to us and said that he was going to pull over. I tried objecting, but he ignored us and pulled over anyway. He reached over for the glove compartment and pulled a gun. Important to note that guns are illegal in my country. We were just watching this unfold with holded breaths and when the other guy drove away, we let out a sigh of relief. But then, we were still stuck in a car with a crazy man with a gun. After that, he went back to driving and apologized to us, saying that the guy was tailgating him. I let out an oof, got it. He kept talking, that guy is lucky that you two girls are here, or else I would have followed him and shoot him in the face. Sleazy idiot. I looked over to my friend. She's in shock and paralyzed. I'm in shock too, but trying to keep my cool because the last thing I want to do is to get him annoyed at us. If he was willing to shoot that guy for tailgating him, I didn't want to know what he would do to us if I said the wrong thing. No, it's okay. I understand, I say, trying to appease him. These guys need to be taught a lesson, he continued while I disagreed with my head. I did that before, you know. You just trap a guy in an empty street, and when he leaves the car, bang! Did he just admit to murder? Was the only thing running through my mind. But I managed to keep calm and just agree with him the rest of the way. He did deliver us in the right place, with no more incidents. I waited a few weeks to report, since he had my home address and wouldn't be hard to figure out who reported him. Nobody showed up in my home with a gun, at least until now. And Uber has answered my report saying that they started an investigation. Hope this guy doesn't do this to anyone else.
Oh, what the fuck?
I know.
I was literally making a face the entire time. At first, I was like, illegal in this which country? I wonder. I wonder where OP is at. Or is it OP?
Yeah, it's OP.
Original poster, yeah.
Yeah, poser.
Poster. Poser. They're a poser.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
you're good.
But if I had to guess, because they did say that English is not my first language.
Oh, I have another one of those. French person.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's kind of crazy. And like, I don't know, it's like the fact that I don't know, it's like, why the fuck do you have a gun in your car and you're working this job? Like, that's gonna get you fired so fast. Like, he's talking about the sleazy idiot. He's kind of the idiot here. I mean, kind of the murderous idiot, apparently.
Yeah.
That's scary, yeah. No, I've always been terrified at the idea of, like, public transportations, but, like, specifically with Uber and, like, yeah, because you're kind of like by yourself at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And there's been like a few stories like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty oof.
Yep.
Jeez, I cannot imagine. Oh, all right. Are you ready for mine?
Yes.
All right. Mine is by the poster Austrian Real. I'm probably butchering that as well. It was posted 1 month ago. The title is How Dog Sitting Almost Got Me Killed.
Oh.
I want to start by saying that this isn't the first bad experience I've had with dog sitting, but it's definitely the worst. So I started dog sitting back when I was 13 and made good money doing it. I'm currently 19 and this happened when I was 18. I set up an easy way for people to contact me about dog sitting. I put out posts on Facebook, on Instagram about it often, and would get people in my messages asking to dog sit. I got a notification from Instagram one day, stating someone was trying to message me. I accepted it, and the message said that me and my wife are looking to find a dog sitter while we go away for a week to Florida. You will have to work through the 4th to the 11th this month. We will pay you $300 for the week. You're welcome to stay at our house or go back to your own home. I started talking back and forth with this man, and so we're going to call him Mr. Brown for the sake of privacy. So I agreed to take this gig and told him I would stay at his house for a week. Once I got to his house, I was introduced to his 2 dogs, Mina and Letty. Mina was a little Yorkie and Letty was a blue hound. I was shown around his house, which was surrounded by 76 acres. I live in a farm town and live on a 32-acre myself, so staying here didn't really freak me out. The closest neighbors were pretty far away, and you would actually have to drive there if you wanted to talk to them. They told me the house ruled and when to feed them, blah blah blah. Then Mrs. Brown told me about the nearest neighbor. In her words, she was a nice person, just a little drugged up and confused. She mentioned how sometimes she would pull into their driveway instead of hers and would end up mistaking Mrs. Brown for her dead daughter. Hearing this made me feel pretty bad for her, and I know all too well how hard it is for parents to lose their child because of how my parents were after losing my brother in a car accident. Mrs. Brown said she shouldn't do anything too bad, though, and if she came up to the house, she'd point her back home and she should leave with no problem. After I left, I was down to watch movies and just chill with the dogs. The first 2 days were fine with no hiccups. Their third day, however, the old woman who I'll call Mrs. Rose, or Miss Rose, I think, did pull into the driveway. I came outside as she was getting out of the car. She looked up to see me, and immediately she got back in her car and left. I chalked it up to her realizing it was the wrong house when she saw me and went back inside. Later that night, though, I got a call from Miss Brown asking if I was okay. I said yes and asked why. She then went on to tell me about how she got a call from Miss Rose and said that there was a robber at their house. I explained what happened and she just laughed and said she must have been confused and forgot that they were out of town. I ended the phone call, making a note to go over there tomorrow to clear the air about me being a robber. Once I went to bed that night, though, things got crazy. I woke up at 2, hearing a light scratching sound that almost sounded like ticking coming from outside the window. At first I thought it might have been a bird or some sort of night creature and left it alone. But the noise kept me from falling back asleep, so I wanted to scare it away. I got up and went to open the blinds, but screamed when I lifted the blinds at the sight of Miss Rose trying to pry the window open with a pair of pliers. Once she saw me through the window, she started banging on it with the pliers. The dog started barking now, and I quickly got up, told the dog to follow me, and grabbed my phone and ran to the room, or a room with no windows, which was the bathroom, locking the door in case she got in. I called 911 and explained the situation quickly, giving them the address from what I could remember. She said the police would be there in about 10 minutes, which for the area I was in, that was pretty good, we were living in a rural area, right? I had gotten the dogs to be quiet and I put them in the closet next to the bathroom to make sure she didn't hear them. I was trying to stay calm and I could still hear the pounding on the window. As I continued to talk to the operator, I heard glass shatter. I cursed under my breath, trying not to cry. I was really scared and pretty much ready to cry from the fear of being beaten to death by someone who was clearly not in the right state of mind. I was whispering what was happening to the operator in the back of the tub. After about 4 minutes of pretty much silence, I heard footsteps, and I could see feet under the other side of the door. I cursed to myself again. I then see Miss Rose get on her hands, looking under the crack, and I mistakenly let out a gasp. Gets up quickly, pounding at the door. I can tell she's still using the pliers. I am at this point crying, asking the operator where the police were, and she responds, 3 minutes. Those 3 minutes felt like forever. I screamed at Miss Rose to please go away, and she screamed back that I shouldn't be here. Once I heard the sound of police cars, and about a minute later, them trying to kick the door down, I felt a little bit better. I was told to stay on the line till the intruder was caught, and that the police were trying to get into the house. Eventually, they did get into the house, and I yelled to get their attention. Not that they needed it, she was still banging at the door. Once they got into the room, she was told to drop her weapon, and she obeyed, saying she didn't do anything wrong. They got her in cuffs, and a police officer told me it was okay to unlock the door, to which I slowly got up and unlocked the door. After being taken to the police station and giving them my story for the report, I went to my parents' house the next day, or I guess they went to the parents' house after doing the report. They were too scared to be alone. The next day, I called Mrs. Brown and explained the situation. I got full payment even after telling them I wasn't coming back to the house. They called me a few days later saying that Miss Rose was under the influence of drugs, and in her words, she told the police she decided to take care of the robber, me, herself, and that she did nothing wrong. She was charged with breaking and entering, which is kind of ironic. After that, I quit dog sitting and am a lot more paranoid and always make sure that my doors and windows are locked. So, Miss Rose, let's not meet again.
That is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like, especially considering that OP was babysitting dogs in a rural area, which those who don't know, in a rural area, the closest neighbor could be about a good couple 100 yards away from you. So
Yeah,
it's like the fact that the police were able to come in within 10 minutes, that's actually pretty impressive.
that is impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, living in the country, I can only imagine how difficult it can be because of that, just because you're isolated.
You're pretty much isolated, and like if you call the police, you have to pray that they're fast enough to get to you because, it's so far out. And it's like and like and if they for some reason miss it, it's a good while for them to realize they miss it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, jeez. I
Wow.
kind of feel bad for Miss Rose.
Yeah,
Like, she really did think that she was in the right.
yeah. Yeah, oh, which just goes to tell this. Make sure you guys are taking care of yourself mentally. All right.
Yeah, and
And don't be under the
also,
influence.
well, make sure that you have people to support you. And like OP said, make sure your windows and doors are all locked.
That too.
Yeah.
I might not sleep tonight.
Oops, no kidding. All right, Rainy, what you got?
Alrighty. So then, here's another story. This is from I'm trying to pronounce this correctly. Beneficial _Bobcat _36. This was
Mhm.
posted 5 days ago.
Oh, that's pretty recent.
Yep. And it's called Campus Stalker. And it is kind of long, so this might get a good chunk of these.
Take your time. Mine
Yeah.
was long too.
Yeah, okay. For some context, I'm a 32-year-old female. This happened to me when I was 25 or 26. I worked full-time as a researcher at a university, which is where these encounters took place. I'm not a professor or anything, and because of my age at the time, I could have been easily mistaken for just another student wandering around campus. On some days, when the weather was nice, I would prefer to spend my lunch hour strolling around the university grounds outside or sitting underneath a shady tree on a bench, enjoying the time I was not sitting in a cramped corner of a lab. On one of these days, I was sitting on a bench enjoying the fresh air, and a male student walking by asked if he could sit next to me.
Ugh.
I'm a pretty shy and awkward kind of person, so even though I really would have preferred sitting alone, I said, sure. He initiated a simple conversation, to which I obliged, but being careful not to be too forthcoming. He mentioned he had seen which apartment building I came and went from,
Oh.
which slightly alarmed me, given I had never seen this person before in my life. But I pushed the thought from my mind. After all, the weather had been decent lately, and I had spent nearly all my studying within the mentioned department, to which I told him that I was not a student, but rather I worked there. He told me he was an engineering student, and then followed up with asking me out to coffee sometime. I apologized and told him that I had a boyfriend and would have to decline. We parted ways after that, and I assumed I probably wouldn't see him around again.
Well, hopefully, but we know it's gonna happen.
About a week or two went by, and I was spending another lunch hour outside on campus, sitting on a different bench somewhere. Seemingly out of nowhere, the same man from before asked if he could sit next to me again. Admittedly, I don't remember what he started talking to me about at first. My mind was reeling, and I was rather uncomfortable having to potentially turn this guy down a second time. Sure enough, he asked me again if we could go out for coffee sometime. I apologized and reminded him that I had a boyfriend and would not be meeting him for coffee. And again, he left after that. I was feeling rather anxious now, but it still hadn't reached a level where I felt I had to be too concerned. A few days later, I had finished work and was leaving the building to walk to where I had parked my car. The university charges a fortune for parking passes.
Ugh, no kidding. Sorry.
Alright, even if you're employed by them. So I had always opted for free street parking about a 10-minute walk, 10-minute walk away from campus. My walking routine would take me down several quiet residential streets with minimum car traffic. Even pedestrian traffic was pretty sparse on the busiest of days. It wasn't until I was about halfway to my car down one of those quiet back streets that I noticed someone walking directly across the street from me, but keeping a few paces behind. I noticed him from my peripheral vision and didn't want to flat out turn around to stare at him. It wasn't uncommon to see someone else by any means. I was just always trying to be aware of my surroundings when walking the streets alone. I had to make a few turns coming up anyways, and the chance and the chance that they would be going the same way as me was slim. But he did. He made all the turns I did, still walking on the sidewalk across from me, a few steps behind. I still did not want to look at whoever this was. I didn't want him to know that I was aware of what I thought he was doing. I quickened my pace to a speedy walk. I was approaching the first of two busier streets before I would reach my car. His pace quickened to keep up with me. That was the moment I panicked, the moment I was sure he was indeed following me. After that, I started a full-out jog to cross the first of the busier streets. He ran to keep up behind me and was now on the same side of the street I was. I was now nearly at my car. I had to cross the last busy street and get about 100 meters, and I would be there. But it was crossing the street that worried me. I often had to stop and wait a good minute or so before it was clear enough to do so. If this were the case, he would catch up with me. As if the stars aligned, as soon as I made it running to the busy street, I had a gap to cross. I booked it as fast as I could, finally turning around once I had made it, to look and yell at the men who had been pursuing me. It was him. I could have suspected, but now it was confirmed. It was the engineering student whom I had turned down for coffee. "Stop following me!" I yelled at him across the busy street. "Can I just talk to you?" he yelled back. I didn't even answer him. I mean, the answer should have been obvious from the start. And I was certainly never going to give my time to anyone who had just followed and then chased me for about 1 kilometer. I kept moving quickly to my car, so determined to get the hell out of there, that I didn't even care if he saw which car was mine. He had given up following me and never tried to cross the road too, to my relief. I got home and broke down. I mean, worse things had happened to other people, no doubt. And I was not harmed, fortunately, but I was shook. I had some anxieties walking to and from work after that. It wasn't long before a coworker and I would walk most of the distance back to our cars together after work. I even changed where I started parking for a time. A few weeks had passed since the incident, and I had not seen him around campus at all. I had started spending my lunches in the lab instead of outside, but occasionally I would go to the student center to buy lunch instead. This one particular day, the food court in the student center was packed, almost shoulder to shoulder. I was standing in line at a burger stall, and I heard a guy try and get someone's attention through the crowd. I looked up, and it's him again, waving to me and trying to make his way through the people. I panicked, and even though I'm terribly shy, I started a scene and yelled at him to leave me the fuck alone. His face dropped instantly as people stared at us, and he slinked back into the sea of students. My heart was pounding, and I was shaking. I don't even remember if I ended up getting food after that. I went back to work, and from then on, I was even more focused on my surroundings than I ever was before. It's been 5 or 6 years since then now, and I still work at the university. I'm so relieved to say I never saw him again after the food court, and haven't had any other harrowing accounts on campus. I am still diligent about being aware of my surroundings, especially when I have to walk to and from campus alone. I never asked the guy his name, so I couldn't even report an incident to campus police or anything. All in all, I'm just glad I never saw him again. And I can only hope he never did this to any other girl before or after me.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, like, Ugh.
Like, I don't understand what goes through, like, what is their thought process? The people who, like, do these kind of things where they just follow people, stalk them, or I don't even know. It's like they just don't know how to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And
Like,
it's ridiculous.
yeah, it's like, no, I don't want to spend more time with you.
Yeah, like, honestly, those kind of people, it's
Yeah.
like they just don't see outside of themselves. I don't know. I feel like they just kind of view people as objects, and if they want it, they can go after it, regardless of like how the object feels.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just such a those kind of stories. Like they scare me, but they also piss me off.
Oh, yeah.
It's the whole like the audacity. What the fuck?
Audacity of this person. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yep.
I mean, you can have it regardless of gender. Yeah, no, that's terrifying. Going to your like, yeah, because like I'm still going to school. I have like one semester left. I'm almost done, but it's sometimes a little bit scary, like walking through campus at night, especially.
Oh, yeah, no, I had to do that for one semester. Was terrified because I was like more in because the campus I went to was
Yeah.
very small, but I was more in the inside of the campus.
Oh yeah.
So I had to walk through through the whole campus to get to my apartment.
Oh, and you had to go to your apartment. At least I only had to go to my car.
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. All right, well, we have two options for me. There is wrong direction, and then there is I really think he wanted to hurt me. Which one do you want?
I'm actually curious what wrong direction is. Oh, sorry. Reading that story. Oh,
Yeah.
my voice is nearly gone. Okay. Sorry.
All right, so this is by Yukira Megasa. This was posted 2 months ago. It's called Wrong Direction. Hi.
Hi.
I'm French, so sorry if this is not really well written. I'll do my best. So this event happened to me back when I was 20, and I was going back from my aunt's house, where I gave lessons to my little cousins each week. I was a student back then, and it happened in winter when it was quickly dark around 5 p.m. I must also say that I am a woman, and unfortunately, it's not helpful when it's getting dark. I really like it because they have a little smiley.
Aw.
I relate, yeah. Ooh, being a woman is fun.
Back to story.
I was going back to the train station to take the directions of my home because I lived quite a few stations away from my aunt. At that time, it was around 6 p.m. and it was really dark and cold outside, and I remember being quite tired that day, so I didn't give much attention to the direction the train I was waiting for was going to. As soon as the train came, I went inside, but it was really crowded, so I just stood up for quite some time, and that didn't help much with how tired I already was. After some time, a seat was cleared, so I went as fast as I could to sit there, and let out a sigh that attracted the attention of the people beside me. I was a little ashamed of it, so I just looked at my phone and didn't pay much attention to others for the rest of the ride. At some point, though, I noticed a guy in front of me looking really intensely at me. But again, I was so tired, I didn't give it much thought and just continued watching whatever was on my phone at the time. As we arrived at the station, to a station the train stopped, the driver informed us that it was the last stop. I had my headphones on, so I didn't hear all the messages, but I deduced that I had to stay on the same train and it would just go back to the same line after some minutes. So while everyone went out, I just switched places to go somewhere with no one besides me on the wagon to sit comfortably near the window. But then, when the train was soon starting again, the man that was looking at me earlier went straight into my zone and sat right in front of me. I was so focused on my episode that I didn't pay much attention to it back then. But it was really strange because the whole part of the wagon was empty where I was, and there was a lot of empty seats where he could have easily sat. But instead, he chose to go exactly in front of me. The train started again, and I was happy to finally be able to approach my home. But then as some stations passed, I noticed something odd. The stations were the ones I already passed before, In fact, the train was going back to the direction of my aunt's house and not where I lived. I didn't hear the messages right at all. I was a little bit pissed off, but most importantly, I laughed at myself because it was the first time that I did such a mistake. And I was smiling at my foolishness. I started looking around me and I saw the man that sat before me. He was also looking confused while switching his gaze to me in the windows. I laughed and gave him a smile because I thought he also got the wrong direction since he was in the same train with me for, a long time. But he didn't smile back at all. He stared right at me and seemed angry. I remember getting a chill at that moment and my senses finally woke up, which made me realize that something was wrong with this man. I stopped the video I was looking at and started thinking. I had two options. The first one was just to stop at the next station and change the sides to take the train that would normally get me back home. That was the most logical and normal option. But I don't know why something in my gut just told me that I shouldn't go home tonight because of that man in front of me. So I decided to stay in the train and see if he would get off before me or not. After all, I was sure that it was not his direction too. So I stayed for at least 4 stations and he didn't move at all. Instead, he seemed to get a lot more confused and angry each station. He was also staring at me a lot and switching to the windows each station as if he was waiting for where I would go down. The way he was looking at me too was really scary, so I tried to avoid his gaze as much as possible so he wouldn't think I noticed him. At some point, he started giving me little pushes with his leg against my leg. It's like when the train is riding fast and because of its movement, sometimes you touch people near you and bump slightly on them when it's crowded. But him doing it was not natural at all because the train was not crowded and he had space, between the both of us. So after some time, I was getting really awkward because of this, and even when I changed positions to be away from him, his legs would still, change to touch me. It pissed me off, so I looked straight at him, and then I knew I was in danger. He was looking at me with a big smile on his face, as if the situation amused him. I was terrified, and when the train stopped again at a station, I didn't think. I just jumped off my seat and went out. But he followed me. I was really scared and didn't know what to do. I really did not want him to follow me home because I lived in a really secluded place, and if he were to follow me at some point, he could have done anything to me near my home, as there would be no one to hear or help me. I was thinking fast, and then I got an idea. I stayed near the train before the door closed and walked near it like nothing happened. He was still following me and looking at me, but I tried to remain calm. Then when I heard the sound of the door closing, I jumped inside the wagon again, and because it was right when the door was closing, he couldn't get on in time. I saw him looking at the doors in shock and then back at me, like he wanted to kill me. I went to sit back and kept looking at him to see what he would do. He seemed so angry. I was scared he would just break the glass and jump right at my neck. The train finally started again, and it was gradually getting further away from the platform. But he kept staring at me with those furious eyes and followed it the whole time. When the train finally passed that station, I started breathing normally again. After that, I stayed on a few stations and finally got off and changed the side to take the train in the right direction of my home. I was looking behind me the whole time and ran home as fast as I could. And only when I was in my room I realized what just happened. That event was really a change for me, as I was really carefree when I took the train or the subway. But from that time, I started being a lot more cautious of my surroundings, especially when going home at nighttime. So to the man I met in the train, let's not meet ever again, please. Oof. Yeah, reading these are kind of a struggle.
Yeah.
I'm getting the worst case of dry mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, speaking of public transportation.
Yeah, a lot of scary stories are in public transportations right now.
I like how this happens a lot to women.
Yeah.
Like when the OP was saying, yeah, so, it's getting dark real quick and, being a woman really doesn't help. And I'm like, oof, that's rough.
Yep.
That is rough.
Feel that.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about their own, subway story.
Yeah, we're lucky we didn't have any of that.
Mm-hmm.
either here where we live or in New York. We were lucky.
Honestly, especially in New York.
Oh yeah, especially New York since we didn't know where we were going.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I guess for New York, it's just the fact that it's so crowded most of the time that we're kind of like, I don't know. There's kind of like a safety in numbers.
Yeah,
I guess what would be really scary is just taking it like late at night.
that would be very terrifying.
Especially by yourself. I can
Oh yeah.
never. Yeah. I feel very, I very much appreciate the fact that I have a car that I can drive.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh my god. But yeah, that was pretty terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of those stories. And
Oh
let us know
yes.
your favorite story. And like and subscribe.
Going through that Reddit is it
Reddit.
Reddit YouTube side?
Subscribe to our channel.
I mean, we could easily do that in our YouTube channel. Not gonna lie. But anyway, so I think we're at a good stopping point because I mean I have a lot to do in a little bit.
I have a lot to do, and by that I mean I'm going to go sleep.
I wish I had that chance. I am going to try to help clean up a room in my home, which could potentially be a new spot.
Yeah, that'll be really nice.
Yeah. But yeah, well, we gotta get going.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and I bid you a good night.
I bid you a good morning.
I bid you a good afternoon.
I bid you a good evening.
All right. Stay safe, listeners.
All right, bye.